In this video, I'm going to highlight what it's like working as a psych nurse during the pandemic. And of course, y'all know, I got to tell y'all what's been going on at work. My very first night back, y'all, I promise you, I was ready to quit. He ripped it off the wall within seconds and took it and was swinging the phone like this. Hey y'all, so before I get this video started, let me give a quick shout out. These were the first 3 comments in my last video. If you want to be featured in my next video, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell and come show me some love when I drop a new video. What's up, you guys? It's KeAmber Vaughn, aka Coach Key, coming back to you with another video. If you are new to my channel, welcome, and if you're not new, welcome back. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and also tap the bell so that you are notified of every new video that I post. So as you guys can tell by the title of this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about what it's been like back at work. I believe this week is my 6th week back at work since everything started with the pandemic. I'm going to talk to y'all about the new processes that we have at work. And of course, y'all know it's been some BS. Y'all know I've been having to deal with stuff with these people. So I'm going to talk to y'all about that too. First things first, if you are new to my channel, I am a part-time psych nurse. I am hired through my facility through an agency. I've been working there for almost 4 years. The majority of my client population are forensics clients, meaning that they have committed some kind of crime and were found not guilty by reason of insanity or permanently incompetent to stand trial. These crimes are anywhere from arson to child molestation to murder. All kinds of things that you could think about. And then we do have a population of people who are not criminals whatsoever, but their legal guardians just could not take care of them anymore, so they are wards of the state. The average length of stay at my facility for these clients is said to be 6.2 years, but what I can tell you is I've been there for almost 4 years and I've seen very few people be discharged, and most of the ones that have been discharged have either come back or are possibly on their way back already. So take that for what it is. Now, I was working during the beginning of the pandemic, but April 7th was my last night working there for a while because we had our first confirmed case there. So I decided to take a step back because I knew the craziness of trying to figure out all the processes and the screening was just going to be too much for me. But they ended up putting a temporary hold on the agency nurses anyway, which I didn't find out until like almost 8 weeks later. But during that time where I was still working, we already had a couple of processes that were already in place. For instance, there were no longer any visitors that could come whatsoever. And then the clients could only leave the wards because it's set up like a jail basically. They could only leave the wards to go to the dining hall. They could not go to leisure anymore, and they could not go to the canteen, which is almost like a concession stand kind of thing. They couldn't do certain things that they were already used to doing. So we were already having some pushback and some issues because you're dealing with a lot of behavioral issues. So taking somebody from their normal schedule of I go to groups at this time, I do this at this time, and now saying you can't do anything, you cannot leave the ward except to go to the dining hall and you have to be 6 feet away. That was just a whole lot of, okay? And then also during that time, all we had was access to the regular surgical mask. I do remember that the morning that I got off of my last shift, they did start testing people for N95 masks, because I remember when I was going to turn my keys into the supervisor, they had this long line outside of the supervisor's office. And if you've never seen people get tested for N95 masks, you can go look at it on YouTube. But basically what they do is they put you in this sleeve and they have this container with this fragrance like kind of powder, and they put the mask on you that they think that is your fit, and they take the powder and they go up underneath the sleeve and they just squeeze it. They squeeze the bottle, and if you can smell it, that means that your N95 mask is either too big or too small, and they continue to do that until you have the right fit, and that's how they know what size you wear. Outside of that, that was really the only thing that we had in place as far as protection, was that the staff members had regular masks, and these surgical masks, y'all, I don't know if y'all remember, but there was a huge shortage. So we used to have to literally use that mask for 4 shifts, and on the 5th shift that we worked is when they would give us a new one. That already had me super uncomfortable. So like I said, once that first case got there, I was like, peace out. See y'all when I see y'all. Like I said, this is my 6th week back, and so far with the new processes, it's pretty much standard across the board. We do have screening that we have to do before we can even get through to security. So we used to be able to come through double doors into our building, but now the double doors are locked. Well, the one on the outside is locked, the one on the inside is not. And I'm going to tell you guys why that is, but basically there's a huge cart there. So now we have to come through the manual doors. So when you come into the doors, there are 2 tables that are set up, and usually there's 1 or 2 people that are sitting there kind of doing the screening. There's usually 1 person at nighttime and 2 in the morning, because we have a lot more staff members that come in during the morning. But basically they screen you, they ask you a bunch of questions. Have you been around somebody that's been exposed to COVID or tested positive for COVID? Have you had any fevers, chills, all of these symptoms of COVID that they have come up with? They also ask you at my facility if you have allergies, because especially if you come in kind of stuffy, if they know that you have allergies, they'll kind of like look over it a little bit and kind of pay more attention to some of your other screening questions. Have you traveled outside of the country in the last 2 weeks? Have you traveled at all? And then once they're done with all of the screening questions, they actually have it written down. Like they write your name and your answer to all the questions. They then take your forehead temperature. It's one where it doesn't have to actually touch your skin, and that's of course for sanitizing purposes. And after that, you're able to go through security. Now, you do have to have an N95 mask to get through security, to get to the client population. And then we do have another population of clients at this facility who are outside of security, who live in small houses that are, of course, all the doors are locked. But when you go into those cottages, you also have to have your N95 mask. We do have the regular surgical mask for all of the clients. Do all of the clients wear them? Of course not. We also take the client temperatures twice a day, but also if the nurses give any antipyretics, which are basically medications that can also reduce fever, but they might also treat something else like Tylenol. So when we give Tylenol for pain, we're supposed to take their temperatures first, unless their temperatures were like just taken. We're supposed to take their temperatures first just to make sure that we're not treating a fever that we don't know is there. I'm not sure what the schedule is like as far as them testing staff and clients for COVID. I do know that since I've been back, I've only been tested 1 time, and that was the initial time that I had to get tested before I could come back to work. And y'all, the process was not bad. Some people have completely over-exaggerated this thing, but I do know that based off of a couple of personal friends and associates of mine, as well as certain videos that I've seen on YouTube and Facebook, my process was a little bit different. All she did was stick the Q-tips super far back and pulled it right back out. It did burn just a little bit, but it was like that burn where when you try to like go upside down underwater and you kind of feel that burn all the way at the back of your nose, like almost in your throat. It was kind of like that. My eye watered just a little bit, but that's it. But I have seen some videos where they get stuck in both nostrils, and when they get stuck back there, they like twist it around and hold it for 5 to 10 seconds. Mine was not that bad. So I don't know the schedule in which they are testing, but I do know that, of course, just like with the mask, we do have certain clients that have declined the COVID test and they continue to decline. And then as far as the staff members go, I do know that some people have been tested like 5-6 times in the last 2 months. I have a couple of nurse friends that are at my job who have been tested like twice in the past month. I've again only been tested once so far, which is actually weird because I have worked with someone who did end up testing positive. So not sure about that. As far as our N95 masks go, the one thing that I definitely have to give kudos to my job for is the fact that not only did they give us 1 N95 mask, but they gave us 2 N95 masks, and y'all, they clean them for us every single day. I do know in a lot of healthcare facilities, they have provided their staff members with masks, but according to a lot of nurse friends that I have, old classmates that I have, theirs are not being cleaned for them, and they have to use those N95 masks pretty much until the wheels fall off. Okay, with ours, remember I told you about that cart that's right in between our double doors? There's a huge cart there, and basically when we got our masks, the first initial set of masks, they ended up assigning each and every staff member a number. So on the front front of that mask, they wrote your number down on the mask, on a sheet of paper, and then also on a paper bag. And basically what they end up doing is once they clean your mask, after you put your mask into the cart, they clean the mask every single day. They take the mask and they put it in the paper bag that is associated with your number. On the second level of our building, we have a bunch of tables upstairs that are kind of categorized by the first set of numbers on your mask, so that it's very easy for you to figure out where your mask is. And all you do is you take the new one out, you place the paper bag into this bin, and then they end up reusing that bag over and over. The one cool thing that I can say is that you don't have to ask for a new mask. They know exactly when it's time for you to get a new mask, and I can say that confidently because last week, Monday or Tuesday morning when I got off work, I kind of noticed that the bottom string on one side of my mask was kind of thinning out and fraying a little bit. So when I ended up coming back into work on Thursday, my new mask was a different color. So the old ones, I don't know if they're going to continue with the new ones, but the old ones were the blue ones that the string is kind of like that thin elastic, whereas the new ones are white and the string is more of like a yellow rubber. So this one probably won't fray as easily during the cleaning process. And that's pretty much it as far as the new processes go. Like I said, I'm very thankful for how they are handling it so far. And so far, it seems as though what they're doing is pretty well as far as the protection of the clients go. We have had quite a few staff members that have contracted it, but we've had way more staff members than clients. And I personally believe that that's because a lot of the staff members are probably acquiring it through the community because they're probably not quarantining themselves and kind of social distancing as well. Because for me, I just feel like if the clients are kind of like, I don't want to say stacked on top of each other, but you have about 27 to 29 clients per ward. There's 3 pods in each ward. Everybody for the most part has their own room. But if most of the clients aren't wearing masks like that and it's not spreading that well, I guess you could say, or that bad through the facility, then I'm forced to believe that a lot of the staff members are getting it from the community. It just kind of is what it is. So now let's talk about some of the stuff I've had to deal with. First of all, my very first night back, y'all, I promise you, I was ready to quit. I was ready to quit. I was ready to go on another 7-week break because we had this new client and he had gotten there during the time that I was gone. And he's very much so a behavioral patient, client, whatever. Most of his issues are behavioral. So I was the med nurse that night, thank goodness, because I hate doing paperwork when things happen. But he decided to get on the telephone and the charge nurse had to remind him, you're not supposed to be on the phone. Yeah, I could be on the phone. No, you can't. Remember, you signed a piece of paper saying that you would not get on the phone. I'm not sure what he's been doing on the phone, but apparently he signed a piece of paper saying he wouldn't get on it. So the nurse decided to go ahead and cut the phone off because he's not supposed to be on it anyway. Do y'all know? He took that phone, he ripped the phone off of the wall so quickly, it's almost like a payphone kind of. He ripped it off the wall within seconds and took it and was swinging the phone like this. He had the box part, I guess, in his hand and he was swinging the phone like this. And next thing you know, he started beating the window of the ward doors. Now these ward doors, again, this is like jail. This is basically like medium security jail. These ward doors are so heavy. They're heavy metal, okay? Now, with this heavy metal, the windows on these doors are super thick, super duper thick. Do y'all know that he shattered that glass? Thankfully, it was still like the intact shatter to where only the middle part was all the way through. But it was like crazy because he did this around, I would say like 8:30 at night, and they never came to put plywood over the window. So at any point in time, he or anyone else could have went and hit that window and everything would have been shattered. And then we would have had to been trying to figure out how to keep these people from trying to climb through the window to get out of the ward. Okay. And I was just like, oh my Lord, why? All because you can't be on the phone. So the crazy thing was, one of the staff members that was on a 2-to-1, because he's always on a 2-to-1. I'm not sure if he's still on a 2-to-1, but I know at that time he was. One of the staff members ended up asking me for Tylenol because she had a really bad headache. So I gave her Tylenol. Within like 30 to 45 minutes, she starts throwing up everywhere. I don't even know if we ended up taking her temperature, but I was like, yo, you gotta go home. Me and the charge nurse both decided she had to go home. I remember she called to the supervisor. I don't know what the supervisor said to her, but the supervisor hung up on her. I was like, look, no matter what the supervisors did or said, you need to go home, because first of all, these are symptoms that can be of COVID, but also because all of her symptoms came on so quickly, that could be practically anything. And I just felt like she needed to go to the hospital. Like, to have such a horrible sudden headache and start throwing up like that, it could be practically anything. So push comes to shove, the following week when I went back to that unit, the nurse who worked with me that night told me that that lady ended up testing positive COVID. And I was like, oh, and he was like, oh yeah. And the very next night, the same thing happened to another staff member, really bad headache. I don't even think she took Tylenol. She started throwing up everywhere, fever, and she ended up testing positive too. So I was actually pretty surprised that they didn't test me and that particular nurse that was there that night. But for me, I'm gonna tell y'all, even pre-pandemic, pre-COVID, I really was never the type to be like real close to anybody anyway. I'd be in my med room or I'd be in the very back corner of the nurse's station. Unless it's an emergency, don't talk to me. And that's just for my own like safety. I just always feel like anybody could have anything. That's just how I am. So yeah, that happened and I was like stressed out, y'all, because it's just like, if you can break that window of that ward door, you can easily break this med window. And I just, I don't want to deal with it. So let me tell y'all about this second issue that I've had. And this is an ongoing problem. I'm still having the issue to this day. So we have a client there who has been there for months before I took my 7-8 week break and never had any issues out of him. He was very quiet, very calm. He seemed like one of the normal clients. I mean, you know, they have psych issues, but they're very stabilized, I can say. Y'all, since I've been back, I don't know what happened. I don't know if they adjusted his meds. I don't know if it's the fact that they have to sit on the ward for so long, but this man has been so hypersexual and it's so frustrating and uncomfortable. So my very first shift back, you know, he was like, hey, where you been? I missed you. So I'm thinking, you know, it's just a normal conversation. When I tell y'all that man talked to me for 2 hours, 2 hours, okay? And I normally don't talk to the clients for that long just because they start to get really attached to you. And even though you want to maintain a good relationship with them, you have to have certain boundaries and you don't want them to feel like they're your friend at all. Because let me tell y'all, one of my clients, I'll tell y'all about that later. But anyway, I sat there and talked to him, but I could tell that he was starting to get really delusional because he was talking about like how he shouldn't really be there and he's one of the most normal people in the entire facility and they pin charges against him. And he started talking about how it was when he was growing up. He started talking about some nurse that works in the facility that I actually know, like I know her, and he was talking about how she used to be his girlfriend and he had to save her from her husband, and her mama used to live over here and she used to have this kind of business. And I'm just like, oh, okay. All right. So the second shift that I worked, I think it was my very next shift, he tried to do the same thing. And this time I was just like, you know what, I'm not dealing with this. So luckily one of my friends who's a regular tech on that ward, I was like texting him like, yo, come save me, send somebody to save me. They had to come rescue me a couple of times. And I'm just like, every time I gotta take a phone call, or, oh, I gotta go do this. Do y'all know he sat at that med window waiting for me? Waiting at a closed window, just waiting for me to come back. So the third shift, which was my very next shift again, I worked just a 4-hour shift, something real simple. I think it was the very next day after that second shift. And so as soon as I walked on the ward, he was right there. Oh, can we talk again tonight? I'm like, no, not tonight. I'm not here for a long time. Oh, well, if you have time. I'm like, I'm not gonna have time. I gotta pass meds. I gotta do everything in 12 hours, in 4 hours, and I gotta leave. So he ended up trying to come up to the nurse's window to talk to me at some point. And I was like, no, you know, I'm about to leave fairly soon. I really had like an hour and a half left, but I didn't want to tell him that. So I'm like, I'm leaving really soon, so I don't have the time to talk to you, right? Do y'all know he started throwing ice into the nurses station at different staff members? Next thing you know, he's by the little kitchen, and he was like out there calling the girl all kind of B words and all of this other stuff, and just all kinds of craziness. So he ended up noticing that I was still there 30 minutes later. You said that you was leaving. I knew you had time to talk to me. I mean, he was going off, and I was like, listen, let me tell you something. I have to fit 12 hours of work in 4. So I do not have time to talk to you. I don't care that I'm still here. They asked me to stay a little bit longer. I was lying. They asked me to stay a little bit longer, which I am, and I still don't have time to talk to you. Well, see, you fake just like the rest of them. I knew that you weren't who you said you were. I mean, he was going off on me, y'all. So before I left out, do y'all know, as soon as I got close to the doors, he was like right there. And I'm just like, yo, so you're not gonna talk to me? You're not gonna talk to me before you leave? I'm like, listen, I legit do not have time to talk to you. And the crazy thing was, another patient or client on that ward, kind of the same thing, where I've worked with him for a long time, and he came back around while my window was closed. I was pulling meds for the next shift, and he knocked on the window, and this guy, the 2 guys had gotten into it like earlier that day and the previous day. So I noticed that this second guy was kind of like, I guess, coming on to me. He was like, hey, where are you from? And he's talking to me through a closed window. I'm like, St. Louis. You always been from here? I'm like, yeah, born and raised. I was wondering if we could talk. I'm like, no, I don't have time. So I'm like, I definitely can't I can't have any conversation with him, because this other guy see it. Now they're gonna try to fight again. Like, it was just too much. So when I got off work that night, I went straight to the supervisor's office. I was like, listen, please don't put me back over there for a while. I need a break, because he's starting stuff with other staff members because I won't talk to him. He's throwing ice. He's calling them all kind of bitches and everything else. Like, it's very unsafe for me as well as the other staff members. I mean, he was talking about, you know, because you don't know who I am, and I used to beat people up, and I mean, he was going crazy. Okay, crazy. So she was like, okay, yeah, I'll pass it along. So I ended up having to work back over there again. I think it was last week, and y'all, I'm like, I thought me taking a couple week break, it was gonna change, and it hasn't really changed. So the last shift I worked, I was the charge nurse. I stayed in the very back of the nurses station, and the friend that I have that works over there, that's the PT, the psych tech, he was like, so the guy was playing music super loud at the nurses station, and part of his plan or treatment plan is to not play music outside of his room anyway. So he's playing the music all super loud, and my friend was like, hey, you're not supposed to be playing music up here. What? I don't care if you don't like this music. It's not for you. It's for her. And he was literally yelling into the nurse station, hey, I know you're back there. Are you hiding from me? So my friend, like, he could see my friend standing up. I'm like sitting behind these books, and he's like, hey, I don't appreciate it. You're being very sexually inappropriate with her. I don't appreciate it. And I'm like, sexually inappropriate, what? So he's like telling other staff members, like, yeah, he's the reason why she won't talk to me, and he's like calling him all kind of derogatory names and words, and it was just crazy. Like, and I'm just like, why do y'all keep putting me over here? I get it that he can be this way, and not to this extreme, but he could be very inappropriate with different women on a unit. Again, I don't know if they changed his meds or what, but he's like beyond inappropriate with me. So I'm hoping that they stop putting me over there, at least for like a month or so, because he was coming up to the nurses station in his underwear. I mean, it's just, baby, I don't want you. Oh, you know, if I was younger, I would. No, you wouldn't, because if you was younger, I would be younger, and that, no. So the last situation I've been having to deal with is another client who is a lot more delusional than this guy is, because this guy that I'm talking about now is actually schizophrenic, and he's always had a crush on me. I could tell, because he would come up to the med window and he would literally just stay there. Like, he's already, first of all, he would take forever to take his meds just so he could stay there, and then after he takes his meds, he says, like, he will literally stand there and stare at me, and I would literally have to completely ignore him. Like, he could be talking to me, I have to ignore him for a period of time before he leaves. So this last time that I worked, he like was refusing to take his meds. I'm like, look, you have to take your meds. Like, what's up? Why are you acting like this? What's going on? You know what you did. I'm like, no, actually I don't. Yes, you do. You're lying. See, you're lying. You know what you did. You know what you told them folks. And I'm like, huh? So he's sitting there not taking his meds, y'all. I ended up having to give meds to like 5 different people through the nurse's station. So I had to come out of the med room, go all the way to the front of the nurse's station, because the nurse's station is like a horseshoe and there's no window or anything. So I'm like calling the next person, hey, your meds are right here. Go back in the med room, come back. Still ain't taking his meds. So finally, he was like, yeah, you know what you did. I'm like, no, I don't. What did I do? You told those people not to put you over here for a while because you ain't want to see me. I'm like, huh? What? I'm like, that is not true. You know, this is my favorite place to work. Like, why would I do that? I don't have an issue with any of you guys. Oh, you ain't tell him that? No, yeah, you did. You lying. He ended up taking his meds, standing there still. So eventually, after I completely ignored his existence, he finally walked away. And I'm just like, why do I keep having this issue? Why? That guy, he doesn't do that with anybody else. No other nurses. I don't know what it is, but it's just like, I don't know if this is happening because of the quarantine and them being stuck on their units. I don't know if they're more hypersexual because they don't have, like, those 2 units don't have females on the unit at all, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they don't have females on the unit at all. So I don't know if it's like the lack of seeing some of the other female clients. I don't know what it is, but I'm over it, y'all. Like, dealing with psych clients who are not able to continue with their normal routine and getting out and seeing other people is very frustrating. Now I think they are starting to take them outside again, like unit by unit, if I'm not mistaken, but they still don't have leisure where all of them kind of come together. I don't think that they're dining in the dining hall just yet, but it's been really frustrating, honestly, and it's taken a toll on my mental state, just constantly dealing with people that are very belligerent and aggressive and sexually inappropriate and sexually aggressive. It's annoying and it's frustrating, and I can't wait for this part to be over because it's just like, just dealing with them is a lot. It's a lot. So I'm not sure when they're going to start kind of opening things back up for the clients at this point, because like I said, it's not really spreading. It hasn't really spread with the client population that bad. I think we've had 2 deaths in the facility altogether, 1 a client and 1 a staff member, I think. I'm not quite sure, but it's like the COVID part is the least of our worries at that facility. The main thing is dealing with psych clients whose psychiatric issues are heightened because they're off of their schedule and they're not able to get out and kind of be human. They're kind of like stuck to these wards. So it's been a frustrating process, but overall it's been a pretty safe environment thus far, and I'm hoping that it continues that way. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, feel free to leave them down below. Please thumbs up this video, subscribe if you haven't already, but other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.